and mementos from my mentor who gave me an idea like how I could approach to my time here as I'm trying to develop my work. And there's a small picture of John Brown's favorite hymn. So these events with John Brown Lives actually made a huge difference in how I grounded myself here for this month. And John Brown Day was, acknowledging people who are doing great work that ties in with both the mission and with John Brown's life and his priorities. And I couldn't even tell you some of the things that they said. Like, there were people whose families came from poor upbringings and, they became the first PhD in chemistry, like amazing things like that. And it was raining, and I kept having an upswell of passion tears. I don't know if everyone's ever had that, like at church, or you just like, and I was crying the whole time, and every time it would hit me, the rain would fall really, really hard. And I realized, it just heard this refrain in my mind that was like, your life is not your own. So like, all of the people had this family story of what had been done before to prepare the way for their success or for their doing this magnanimous work. And just a reminder that I'm the dream of my ancestors. My life has difficulties, but I also have great ease in certain ways that none of my ancestors could have, it just didn't exist. And so that just helped me take a little bit of the focus off of, you got to do the most, and realize that this is a bigger project. And the Evening of Music and Friendship was a beautiful vision of what people of the African diaspora do creatively when there's no outside influence. So the music that exists today in the popular sphere tells a story of us being deviant and hypersexualized and criminals and all this kind of stuff, and it will come from our mouths, and it seems like real stories. But there are people that produce these things and set a tone that then trains our children to believe that this is their path. I'm from the Bronx, South Bronx, I'm from Harlem, I'm from Brooklyn, is not real. And so to have these people, and a person from Mali, he comes from a long line of storytellers and truth tellers, a griot. I feel like the number 700 popped up, but it's just many generations of unbroken memory of the history of his people and like their kings and such. We have an Afro-Latina who's singing a lot of like stories about family and doing call and response, which is very African and African-American. And then we had a blues guitarist, an American person, a Black person, bringing like a totally Black American art form. And they made music, and they're all Paramount musicians. And I was like, oh my goodness, they are me. Like, all of those are my identity as well. Not specifically Mali, but my history with West Africa as a Caribbean and Afro-Caribbean person, and then as an American as well. And so that was able to ground me in John Brown Lives. The work that I do in relation to it can hold all of me as well. And that project, was the brainchild of Martha Swan, and I give you mad props for that. That was amazing. So I think I'd like to play just a little piece of the song about friendship that they played, so you can just get a sense of how beautiful it is. And the sound that you're gonna hear is a kora, so I don't know how many strings it has, let's just call it a lot. And it's a calabash. It looks something like what we think of as a guitar or a 12-string, but very different with an amazing sound.
Thank you.
I'll play the rest of it while we talk afterwards because it's a long song, but I mean, for me, it was amazing to hear blues guitar playing the bass, a West African ancient instrument, and then when the singer comes in, her voice just hits God's ears, and it was just tears. Beautiful. So all of that is part of the process. I guess I wanted to share the process because I think people come to these talks wanting a bit of insight into what artists do, and oftentimes you get shown what we've done. And so all of this is figuring into the things that I wanted to make, and I'm trying to figure out how to do conceptual art, how to do it visually, and then of course taking into account materials. So what I plan to make, I wanted to make decals, kind of like removable tattoos that you have when you're a kid. You can put something like that on plates, and like if you have a tourist plate from Niagara Falls or something, that would be a decal with gold accents and opalescent lusters. And those were going to be of John Brown and Harriet Tubman and some compositions that I made that I'll show you. And then my second choice was going to be maybe working on this concept of Afro-Caribbean or African themed plates. And that was like if I had the time. Gifts for friends. The gifts haven't arrived yet for those of you who fit in that category. And then custom items with John Brown and Harriet Tubman for sale, like stickers and such. And, you know, I think I mentioned to someone, I think it was someone I mentioned too about being in flow, and the things that I wanted to make with the decals didn't flow. All the decal makers were like, oh yeah, send it. And then they would disappear. And I was like, do they not like Harriet? Like, what's the problem, you know? And so I was like, okay, you know what, fine, I'll just switch to plan B. And so I focused on the cultural plates and was trying to figure out different ways to do it. So just to show you some of the decals, because I'm very happy with them. You might see these around over the next few weeks. So John Brown, my goal would be to make it more like the photograph, but have it be color so you can really see him today. I feel like black and white photos for me never really feel real. But this was a start to, you know, get him out of that picture and onto other surfaces. And then we had a young picture of Harriet Tubman, which was fairly recently found. This is her age when she ran, right? 10 times. That's the body that can run 10 times from Maryland to Philadelphia. And with the decal, I have the constellation that she would have been following to keep herself oriented. And then I put them together since they were friends, and she dreamt him. She dreamt of meeting him years before she met him. And she actually dreamt the workings of what happened on the day of the raid where they were captured and his son was killed. And so, I just wanted to have them in the same frame because I always imagined what they would have said when they saw each other, right? He was the captain of his own militia and she was the equivalent of a general in the army. And so I see them coming into the room like, General, Captain. So that's been in my head. So I'm like, I want to make a story. I want to do a lot of things with that. So that's the start of that. So this is another decal. I used Adinkra symbols, which you'll see in the work I'll show you today. And we made her gold. And that actually coincided with the coins that came out. I actually didn't know they turned it into a coin versus the $20 bill, because what black lady's worth $20? Just make her into a coin instead. So with the gold, it actually worked out because they did make a gold coin of her. It looks nothing like her, but it's Harriet. And so these three symbols, she can trace her lineage. There were stories in her family that she was Ashanti from Ghana. And so I chose three symbols that would have matched her life. So the Inkyukyum, which is twistings or initiative, dynamism, and versatility. The Nsoroma, which is child of the heavens. She had visions as well, just like John Brown felt like he got a message from God telling him he had to do this thing. And since he started the war, he had to do the thing. So I trust that he did have a vision. And so this is, like a full belief and patronage from God. And then the bottom symbol in the green, Oroforo Adobe, the snake climbing the tree, so steadfastness, prudence, and diligence, which she would have needed to do what she did. So that would have been on a white stoneware plate, or platter rather, since it's oblong. And then this is a seal that I'm working with that is a peace symbol, but with Harriet's sword in the middle, her sidearm on the right, and John Brown's custom sharpshooter on the left. So peace by any means necessary. And for those of you that aren't up on the slang, I try not to take our slang out of the community, but because this is so funny to me, the FAFO means fuck around and find out. So just like the toughness, and John Brown used it to great effect, and Harriet used the thread of it to great effect. So these are some of the fabrics that were inspiring of the pieces that I did make. This is not all of them, but some of them. I'm really interested in surface design that looks like or imitates some aspect of West African fabrics. So these would be Ankara, pieces of Ankara cloth. It's cotton, sometimes covered in wax. You can see it in the second one with the pink and the blue. There's a little sheen. Excuse me. And for me, like they're worn throughout West Africa, even though the motifs are not African. It's just made for that market from I think the 1800s when the Nigerians were fighting on somebody else's war. And it's just held for all these years. And the clothes that are made are just beautiful and totally tailored to the bodies that wear them. And so I love the idea of bringing them in. I also tried some kente cloth, which has different types of meanings. And you'll see those in a moment. But this is a way of dipping into my Caribbean ancestry as well as African, because in the Caribbean, people wear these, as well as here. My mother, when she died, she had 20 custom outfits made, which is dollars. I was really just impressed with her commitment to Afrocentricity. So this is some of my older work. Trying to get the patterns onto the plates, and these are all matte surfaces, so you wouldn't eat off of them, but I just wanted to give you an idea so you can see how it's changed with the experiments that I'm doing now. So those are tea bowls and a creamer pour, vibrant colors, and some of these motifs are from fabric that exists. And these stamps actually were gifted to me by Jerry Lee, made from calabash, and I used one of them for one of the plates. But these are traditionally made. They're precious and rare to find outside of the continent, and so I just wanted to acknowledge the tremendous gift. So some of the symbols that I used, and when you get to look at my plates, I'll put these back on the screen. The way I use them, I think of them as talismans. Anytime I make art for people, I think about them and maybe they have health stuff or something that they're going through, and I try to make it like medicine to that thing. And so the way I combined them, except on the cups, everything is talking to each other. So learn from the past and leadership, right? We want leaders that learn the good things from the past. Let's not repeat it, type of a thing. So I'll bring those back up when we look at the pots. And then some views of my journals, my plans, which I learned always go awry. So I was experimenting with different techniques of throwing and hand building and doing it in combination. And I received some direct training from Lance, thank you so much, as well as great input from Michelle, thank you so much. It's, I've not gone to school for ceramics. I have done many art classes, and so the one-to-one instruction was priceless. And then I like to do painterly surfaces because I'm a frustrated painter, and so I'm trying to paint on everything. so I'm sitting there doing the most on a pot for 2 hours. So that's my joy. And combining glazes that you typically see that are shiny with underglaze to see what they can do to convey this layered aspect and the different patterns. So I focused on slab plates, which are a way to make plates that don't crack. It's very hard to make flat things. If you don't dry it well, they'll crack or they'll warp. And so that was an experiment. And I tried hand building some chalices. I love the idea of a regal cup to hold palm wine or to hold passion fruit juice, something that just matches the deliciousness or the importance of the liquid that it holds. Oh. I just wanted to do that every time I make a plate with something. So I learned a lot of lessons. I have a commercial dream of making pots for Afro-diasporic restaurants and tourist places around the Caribbean and some in America and Africa, but I have a long ways to go. So that's what I've learned. But I feel that the experiments yielded such great information that just focusing on them over the next good stretch of time, that I'll have some pieces I can really, really say are close to what I'm trying to do. And, I won't go into all the details because many of you may not know much about ceramics, but just being more systematic. I'm kind of loosey-goosey when it comes to certain processes except the painting, and I think I need to be looser with the painting and more systematic with, you know, how much clay and how I do my movements and such like that. And I learned that resistance is futile. And future plans. This is the Cora from the music that we started to listen to. He has these like studs that hold the cow skin. I went to him and I was like, tell me everything. Mm-hmm. And so it makes these amazing designs, and there are sound holes that are circled by these studs. If you think about like club chairs, it's just studs like that. And so I want to make blinged out plates. I think that my patterns surrounded in like Swarovski crystals will be absolutely amazing. So that was part of the inspiration that came from the Cora. And just real quick, the story that was said in the John Brown about Harriet Tubman being at his house for 3 months, it's true. John Brown is hosting the traveling monument of Harriet Tubman, a beacon of hope, from July 5th, which is Unveiling Day, through the end of September. So those of you who are here, please go visit. And I think we can look at the pots now. So I invite you to get up and we go to that table back there.